You wake up and realize that morning in a brothel has nothing in common with the romantic paintings where soft golden light kisses the curls of some elegant courtesan. There is no golden light here, no curls, no romance. There is only the sour stench of spoiled wine, semen, sweat, and rancid oil that burned through the night in a clay lamp, and now rots in its dish. Your bed is not a bed at all, but a pile of rags on a damp floor, rags that have absorbed so many fluids they could be classified as archaeological layers. Every stain has a story. Some are wine, some are blood, and some are things you'd prefer not to identify while sober. You don't wake up alone either. You're left. One of the older women wheezes like she's halfway to the underworld. On your right, a newly purchased girl grinds her teeth in her sleep, still clinging to the faint illusion that this is temporary, that she'll find a way out. In the corner, one client from last night is still here, snoring loudly, pants halfway down, because he passed out after losing both his coins and his sandals. Welcome to your day. There is no morning ritual, no bath, no splash of clean water. Water is for drinking, and even then, it's a gamble. Most of the time, it's crawling with enough parasites to start their own senate. Soap? Forget it. Instead, you smear your face with lead-based powder that burns your skin and makes you look like a half-dead statue, but at least it hides the gray of exhaustion. Without it, you look worse than the rats outside, and even rats know how to clean themselves. Your hair, sticky with oil and sweat, is twisted into something resembling a bun, held together with more desperation than pins. Some women wear wigs made of other people's hair. Some shave their heads and call it fashion. Either way, the result is the same. You look like an exhausted ghost painted for a festival no one attends. The first customer can arrive even before sunrise. A soldier, just off night duty, drunk on cheap wine, stumbling in with that look in his eye that says he thinks he's Jupiter, god of thunder. But his breath smells more like the open sewer outside. He pays with a single coin, the cheapest rate, and expects the service of a goddess. He slaps, he grunts, he leaves scratches, and if you're lucky, he doesn't vomit on you before he's finished. That's your breakfast. Not food, not even a proper drink, just sweat, spit, and the promise of another coin if you let him fall asleep on top of you. And then there are the philosophers. God save you from the philosophers. They don't come for pleasure. They come for an audience. He'll quote Plato while thrusting clumsily, ask you questions about the nature of virtue while drooling on your neck, and then declare that your existence is proof of moral decay in society. He leaves feeling enlightened, you leave with bruises, and the faint hope that one day someone will invent a different job. Senators are worse. They like to remind you that you are nothing, that you belong to them for the price of a loaf of bread, and sometimes they don't even pay. They sit, they eat, they paw at you like livestock, and if you don't smile at the right moment, they strike you. But don't worry, it's discipline, not violence. Everyone knows a whore can't be beaten, because she's already beaten. By mid-morning, the room is thick with sweat and smoke. Your body already aches, and it's not even midday. You've had 2 men, maybe 3, each one leaving a little less of you behind. There's no time to rest. The madam shouts, the clients shout, and outside in the street the vendors are already selling bread and olives you can't afford. The world smells of piss, grilled fish, and desperation. And somewhere out there, respectable wives are waking up in clean sheets, complaining about their slaves, and thanking the gods they weren't born into your life. For you, there is no thanks, no gods, no clean sheets, just the endless rhythm of bodies, the constant stench, and the knowledge that this day will be just like the last, and tomorrow will be no better. Breakfast. or whatever passes for it. Don't expect grapes and honey or any of that marble banquet fantasy. Your morning feast is a lump of stale bread that could double as a weapon, and a cup of sour wine so watered down it tastes like someone pissed in it. And honestly, they probably did. Sometimes you get olives if the madam is generous, but usually you gnaw at the same crust for days, chewing until your jaw hurts and your stomach still stays empty. Clients eat better than you, of course. They come in stuffed with meat and figs, belching over your face while they climb on top of you, and you get the scraps if they're feeling merciful. Some women pick through the leftover trays like rats, hoping a senator's half-eaten chicken leg didn't already meet the floor too many times. If you're unlucky, you don't even get that. Just bread so hard it cracks your teeth, and sour wine that burns your throat like acid. Congratulations, that's your fuel for the day. Once you've choked down your ration, it's time to get presentable. Presentable, in this world, means plastering your face with lead powder until your skin itches and cracks, smearing soot around your eyes, and hoping the candlelight is dim enough to blur the rest. Real perfume? Only the wealthy get that. You make do with cheap oils that smell like rancid roses or goat fat left too long in the sun. And if you don't stink of sweat and sex by the end of the day, congratulations. You're probably already dead. Clothes? One ragged dress that marks you instantly as what you are. In Rome, prostitutes were forced to wear the toga muliebris, the prostitute's toga, as if a giant sign saying, yes, I'm available, and no, I'm not respectable. It scratches, it clings, and it tells every man exactly how little you're worth. No jewelry except cheap glass beads that cut into your skin. No silk, no luxury. Just a costume of misery designed for recognition at 20 paces. Hair gets oiled into submission or hidden under a wig stitched from someone else's locks. If lice crawl out mid-conversation, no one's surprised. Then come the clients. Gods, the clients. The parade of broken egos, violent hands, and bizarre fantasies. There's the soldier again, back for round 2, still drunk, still convinced he's irresistible, though he can't stay hard longer than it takes to sneeze. He pays nothing extra, of course, just grunts and leaves. Then there's the poet, who insists on reciting his verses while you're forced to moan at appropriate intervals. His words are terrible, his rhythm worse, but he demands applause with your body. The philosopher is back too, only now he wants you to call him Socrates while he makes you kneel. Another man insists you spit insults at him the entire time. Call him a pig, a coward, a worthless piece of shit, and the moment you do, he grins like you've given him salvation. One nobleman even asked a girl to pretend she was his mother. She did it, because what choice did she have? And when he cried afterward, she held him, not out of pity, but because if she didn't, he'd get violent. And violence is always waiting. Some men like to slap, others to choke, others to carve little marks with knives just to prove they can. There are rules, supposedly, don't damage the merchandise, but rules are for rich wives, not for you. If a client breaks a rib or leaves you bleeding, that's your problem. You either limp back to work or you starve. The madam doesn't care if you can walk, only if you can spread your legs. And yet, these same men return again and again, whispering that you're sinful, filthy, damned while climbing into your bed the next night with coins in one hand and curses in the other. Hypocrisy doesn't even begin to cover it. Some of the truly deranged ones bring props, whips, candles, even animals. They demand role-play slave, goddess, enemy soldier, their own mother, and you learn fast to act, because acting is the only thing keeping the knife away from your throat. By midday, you've had so many hands on you that your skin feels like it doesn't belong to you anymore. You're raw, exhausted, hungry again, and the day is only half over. The room reeks of sweat, wine, and blood. Your body is bruised, your throat burns, your back aches. The madam shouts at you to stop crying, because tears don't bring in money. And she's right. Nothing does except opening your legs and shutting your mouth. And so you swallow your pride, your anger, your nausea, and prepare for the next freak in line. Because in this place, dignity is a luxury no one can afford. By the time the sun is high, your body already feels like a battlefield. Every joint aches, your skin crawls, and somewhere deep inside, something burns in a way that isn't just exhaustion. It's infection, it's disease, it's the slow rot that every woman in this trade carries like a second shadow. No one escapes. Not the street girls, not the fancy courtesans, not even the so-called sacred prostitutes who service men in the name of goddesses. The body is just meat here, and meat spoils fast. Let's talk about the diseases. Venereal sicknesses are everywhere, and nobody even bothers naming them properly. If your genitals burn like hellfire every time you piss, that's just life. If sores open on your thighs and ooze for weeks, that's just the curse of Venus. There's no cure, only prayers, herbal pastes, and the occasional lunatic doctor who suggests you shove garlic or mercury up inside yourself. Spoiler, it doesn't help. Sometimes the lesions heal for a while. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they spread until your entire body feels like it's rotting from the inside out. The men, of course, bring it back again and again. Soldiers on campaign, traders from distant ports, drunks who pay with the same coins they just pissed on in the alley. They spread it like wildfire and then blame you for being diseased. The irony would be funny if it weren't eating you alive. Pregnancy is another nightmare. Condoms. Don't make me laugh. The closest thing to birth control is a handful of herbs that either poison you, make you vomit, or simply do nothing while you keep getting fucked. The madam doesn't want babies crying in the rooms. So if you do get pregnant, she'll find a healer to scrape it out with a stick or drown you in some foul brew of wine and herbs that burns like acid. Half the women survive, half don't. Those who do often bleed for weeks, fever burning them until they either crawl back to work or get dumped into a ditch. You learn not to talk about it. You just see the stains on the straw mats, hear the muffled screams in the back room, and keep your eyes down. And the daily hygiene? Forget baths. Baths cost money, and water itself can kill you. Communal bathhouses exist, but they're crawling with gossip, filth, and every disease you can imagine. Most of the time, you clean yourself with a rag dipped in sour wine, maybe rub on some cheap perfume to mask the smell, and hope the next client is too drunk to notice. The body never really feels clean. It feels used, sticky, raw. You itch constantly. Fleas, lice, crabs, everyone has them. They crawl in your hair, between your thighs, across your sheets. You scratch until you bleed, and then scratch some more. Skin infections bloom like flowers. If you're lucky, it's just a rash. If you're unlucky, it festers into boils that burst under the pressure of a client's weight. And then you still have to keep working, because disease doesn't excuse you from rent. Let's not forget the teeth. Clients don't care about bad breath, because theirs is worse. But your own mouth feels like a graveyard by your 20s. No toothbrush, no toothpaste, nothing but the occasional twig to chew. Your gums swell, your teeth loosen, and eventually you spit them out along with your food. Try kissing someone when your mouth is full of rot. It doesn't matter, though. Men aren't here for romance. They come for holes, not smiles. By 30, if you live that long, you look and smell decades older, your body crumbling under the weight of too many nights, too many men, too many infections that never heal. And if you dare to complain, If you moan too loudly about pain or refuse a man because you're bleeding, the madam laughs in your face. Pain is part of the job, she says. Death is part of the job too. Women vanish all the time. Fever takes them, knives take them, childbirth takes them. The next day, a new girl is brought in, younger, cleaner, more hopeful, and within weeks, she's coughing, itching, and realizing the truth. This isn't a life, it's a countdown. So you smile with cracked lips, hide the tremor in your hands, smear on more white paint to cover the sores, and spread your legs for another stranger. Because that's survival here. You don't heal, you just keep breaking until there's nothing left to break. If there's one thing more dangerous than the men you serve, it's the gods they claim to serve. Religion wraps around your life like a noose, tugging tighter with every breath. In some cities, they call you sacred, a servant of Aphrodite or Ishtar, a vessel of divine love. Sounds glamorous, doesn't it? A holy prostitute, adored by priests and worshippers. The truth? It's just another excuse for men to fuck you and call it piety. They stumble into the temple drunk, toss a coin at the priest, and then treat you like a sacrifice, not a human being. And afterward they pray for forgiveness while you wipe their stink off your thighs with a rag. Sacred? Please. Sacred means you're still on your knees, just in front of a statue instead of a landlord. In Rome, the hypocrisy is even sharper. By law, you're registered as a meretrix, your name written down like livestock on a ledger. You pay taxes to the state just for the privilege of being used. They call it regulation, but it's nothing more than branded slavery. You can't marry a respectable man. You can't testify in court. You can't inherit land or status. You are marked, forever, even if you try to leave the life behind. Once branded, always branded. The toga you wear announces your shame louder than any proclamation. Respectable women wear stole, long gowns of virtue. You wear the costume of disgrace, the visual equivalent of a scarlet letter. So every man knows exactly how cheaply you're bought. And the punishments, because of course there are punishments. If a client decides you insulted him, he can beat you in public, and no one will stop him. If you try to cheat a man, if you're accused of stealing a coin or withholding service, you can be stripped and flogged in the marketplace while the crowd jeers. In Athens, some brothels were even owned by politicians. Yes, the same men who passed laws against immorality. They profit from your body and then spit on you for being immoral. Hypocrisy isn't a side effect of the system. It is the system. And the street work is worse. Out there, you're meat for anyone with a coin or without one. A soldier decides he doesn't want to pay. Too bad. He'll shove you into an alley, and when you crawl out bleeding, the magistrate shrugs. After all, you're a whore. Can a whore be raped? Not in their eyes. If you scream too loudly, you're a nuisance. If you fight back, you're a criminal. You learn quickly to take the hits, to take the hands, to take everything without protest, because protest earns you more pain. The most bitter joke of all? They still call you sinful. Men flood into your bed every night. Priests preach against you in the morning, and their wives whisper about your corruption while wearing the jewelry their husbands bought with the coins they threw at you. You are condemned for surviving the very demand they create. Society needs you, feeds on you, taxes you, and still despises you. That's the law of the ancient world. The whore keeps the city running, but God forbid anyone admit it. And when the law itself turns against you, the punishments reach theater level. Public shaming. Your head shaved, your face tattooed with the word prostitute. Your body paraded through the streets as children laugh. Some women are crucified, not for theft or rebellion, but simply for being inconvenient, for belonging to the wrong man at the wrong time. Others are drowned, strangled, or left to rot outside the city walls. All while the same respectable citizens keep lining up at the brothel door. You learn to live with the constant awareness that your body is property. Not yours. Not ever. It belongs to the city, the temple, the madam, the clients. You are the most public secret. Everyone uses you. Everyone despises you, and no one pretends otherwise. That is your religion, your law, your punishment. To be needed, to be hated, and to be destroyed piece by piece while the world looks away. Night falls, and that's when the real carnival begins. The day clients are bad enough soldiers, poets, farmers who pay with coins still sticky from sweat. But the night brings the real monsters out. The respectable citizens, the senators, the men with money. They come in packs, drunk on wine, howling with laughter, and the brothel fills like a theater at festival time. The air thickens with smoke from torches, vomit in the corner, piss dripping from the back wall where someone couldn't be bothered to walk outside. Every room groans with noise, flesh slapping flesh, voices yelling, bodies colliding like a parody of celebration. The madam counts her coins in the corner, ignoring the crying, ignoring the blood, because business is good. Clients demand games. One man drags in a goat, insists someone bleat like it during the act. Another wants 3 girls at once but pays for 1. A senator insists you kneel while he pisses on your head, calling it divine justice. Someone else orders you to play dead, still and silent, while he uses you like a corpse. If you flinch, he slaps you. If you cry, he laughs. And then there are the endless drunks too soft to finish, too drunk to stand, but still insisting on trying, pawing at you for an hour, teeth scraping your neck until you're raw and numb and praying he passes out soon. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The worst part is the group nights. Men come in together, betting coins on who can finish first, who can make you scream loudest, who can last longest. They treat you like sport, like animal baiting, cheering, jeering, slapping your ass like you're part of the entertainment. If you collapse, they kick you awake. If you faint, they throw water on your face. You are not a woman in their eyes. You're an object, a hole, a trophy. And when they're done, they stumble out, boasting to each other like heroes, leaving you bruised, bleeding and staring at the ceiling, wondering if your ribs are cracked. Fights break out too. Drunk men arguing over who gets which girl, fists flying, knives flashing. Sometimes one of them dies. The madam doesn't care. Dead men don't pay, but live men still do, so you drag the body outside and hope the watch doesn't notice. Sometimes the watch comes in themselves, demanding free service or threatening to shut the place down. You serve them too, because the law is never on your side, and a guard's hand is just as heavy as any client's. The noise is endless, moans, screams, laughter, coughing, the slap of flesh, the clink of coins. You lose track of time. One man finishes, another enters. A drunken brawl in the hallway knocks over a lamp, and the place nearly burns down. But no one moves until the madam screams about the money. The smell is suffocating. Sweat, blood, wine, smoke, and sex. It clings to you, soaks into your skin, and even when you collapse later, you still taste it in your mouth, still feel it under your nails. Eventually, the night slows. The drunkest clients have passed out on the floor, snoring in their own filth. A couple of girls sit in the corner, holding each other, eyes blank, too tired to cry. One vomits into a bucket, another limps to her mat, blood trailing down her thigh. You wash nothing, clean nothing, there's no point. The straw on the floor is already ruined, the sheets already stained beyond recognition. You collapse where you are, body throbbing, muscles torn, stomach empty, head ringing. The madam blows out the last lamp, and the brothel sinks into darkness, the air still heavy with the ghosts of the night. You close your eyes, praying not for sleep, but simply for silence. For one moment when no one touches you, no one calls your name, no one demands your body. That is the closest thing you get to rest. Time is the enemy here, and it moves faster than anywhere else. In this world, a woman ages in dog years. By 25, you're considered old. By 30, you are ancient. And if you survive to 40, you're practically a ghost. Clients don't want ghosts. They want youth, softness, the illusion of innocence they can destroy over and over again. And when your skin sags, when your teeth rot out, when your breasts lose their shape, they sneer, they complain, they spit their coins on the floor like they're doing you a favor. You become a punchline, the old whore they take, only if they're desperate or if they want to humiliate someone. The body doesn't forgive the years either. Every infection leaves scars, every pregnancy ended or carried tears you apart inside. Your back hunches from the constant labor, your knees creak from the endless grind of men climbing on top of you. The lice never go away. The sores never truly heal. You scratch yourself bloody and pretend it's fine. And the pain, oh, the pain becomes so constant you stop noticing it until one day you can't stand up without groaning, and the madam snaps at you to quit scaring the customers. What happens then? You get replaced. A new girl arrives, younger, prettier, still dumb enough to believe she can make it out. She takes your clients, your corner, your scraps of bread. You're shoved aside like a broken stool. Some women try to cling to the edges of the trade, offering cheaper and cheaper services, taking the drunkest, filthiest men no one else will touch. They earn a few coins and a lot of bruises. Others become cleaners in the same brothel, scrubbing the floors where they once lay, carrying out the chamber pots filled with the same filth they used to create. The lucky few manage to save enough to run their own place, becoming madams themselves. But luck is a cruel joke. Most never even dream of it. The decline isn't just physical, it's psychological. At first, you still joke with the other girls. You still whisper in the dark. You still find scraps of laughter. By 30, the laughter is gone. The eyes are dull. The smile's fake. You don't joke anymore, because jokes take energy, and energy is for survival. You move like a shadow through the brothel, tolerated but not wanted, useful but invisible. The clients notice too. Some treat you with open contempt, spitting on you, calling you hag, forcing you to watch while they choose someone younger. Others fetishize your age in disgusting ways, demanding you act like their mother, their aunt, their nursemaid. You play the part, because refusal means no coin, and no coin means no bread. And then there are the diseases that never leave. Syphilitic sores eat away at your face, rotting flesh hidden under heavy powder. Gonorrhea burns until your thighs are wet with pus. Your belly is scarred from too many abortions done with sticks and knives. Your teeth gone, your breath foul, your hair thinning. These are the gifts of years in the trade. Men still come sometimes when they're too drunk to care, when they want something cheap, when they want someone to punish. But they don't see you as a woman anymore. They see you as waste to be used once and discarded. And society pretends you don't exist. The same men who bought you for years suddenly wrinkle their noses and talk of morality. Respectable wives sneer at you in the marketplace, as though you chose this, as though you had another option. The law ignores you unless it wants to make an example of you. Religion condemns you, even if you once served in the temple. You are invisible and damned at the same time, erased from humanity while still breathing. This is the slow death of a prostitute in the ancient world. Not a quick end, not always a dagger in the alley, or a fever in the night, though those happen too. More often, it's the long erosion of body and spirit, the grinding humiliation of being seen as too old for pleasure but still good enough for punishment. You live long enough to watch yourself become the warning story told to the new girls. Work hard now, or you'll end up like her. And every time you hear it, every time you see the glance they throw your way, you remember, one day, you were the new girl too. Death is the only retirement plan you get, and it isn't golden. There's no quiet bed, no grandchildren, no honored goodbye. For most prostitutes in the ancient world, death is sudden, filthy, and invisible. One day, you're still staggering through the brothel halls. The next, you're a corpse, dumped outside the city gates. Nobody lights incense. Nobody sings hymns. At best, another girl shakes her head, steals your beads, and lies down on the same straw you just died on. That's your memorial. Disease is the most common executioner. The constant infections, the untreated sores, the venereal plagues that crawl from man to man eventually sink their claws too deep. You cough until blood foams on your lips. You piss fire until you can't stand. Your belly swells with fever, and the only doctor who comes near you is a barber with a rusty blade who suggests cutting a vein to balance your humors. You know you're finished when even the drunks avoid your bed, muttering that you smell like a corpse already. Then one night, you lie down on your filthy mat and never get up again. Your body is hauled out with the trash. Childbirth claims plenty too. No midwives, no sterile tools, no gods listening. Just screaming and tearing while the other women hold you down and pray you don't bleed out before the baby crowns. If the child lives, it's often sold into slavery before it's even weaned. If it dies, it's tossed into a ditch. If you die, you're lucky enough not to see either. That's maternity in the brothel, a death lottery played on dirty floors with dull knives. And then there is violence, the fastest and ugliest way out. A client snaps, too drunk or too angry, and smashes your head against the wall. Another strangles you when you won't call him God fast enough. A guard demands free service, and when you hesitate, his sword does the talking. Men kill you for sport, for boredom, for nothing at all. No one calls it murder. They call it cleaning up. Your blood stains the same straw another girl will be forced to work on by evening. Starvation is slower, crueler. Once you're too diseased or too old, the madam tosses you out. The streets don't welcome you. They spit you out harder than the brothel did. You beg in alleys, offering your body for scraps of bread, and the men laugh as they walk by, sometimes kicking you, sometimes spitting. The dogs eat better. Winter finishes what hunger starts. You curl against a wall, shivering, bones rattling under skin, and by morning you're stiff. Someone drags you to the edge of town, dumps you in a shallow trench with others, and that's it. Some women don't wait for death to find them. They drink too much sour wine, slit their veins with a shard of pottery, or hang themselves from a ceiling beam with their own toga. Better to end it yourself than let another man take one more piece of you. The brothel doesn't mourn. The city doesn't notice. A new girl fills your place before your body is cold. The final insult? Even in death, you don't belong to yourself. Respectable citizens are burned or buried with rights, coins on their eyes, names carved in stone. You? Your body might be thrown in the dump with animal carcasses. Some cities tattoo prostitutes in life. In death, the mark rots with you, so future generations can dig up your bones and still read your shame. If you're very unlucky, you're left in the gutter until the dogs gnaw your face off. Your name disappears with your last breath. You become nothing, erased as if you never lived. That is the end for most. Not glory, not love, not memory. Just dirt, silence, and the knowledge that the same men who killed you with their hands, their cocks, their diseases, will still line up the next night for the next girl. And the cycle continues, century after century, city after city, temple after temple. A machine fueled by women's bodies and finished with women's corpses. Your death is just a pause before the next performance. You've survived, at least in theory. One entire day, one entire night, and the slow, grinding death of an ancient prostitute. You opened your eyes on straw mats soaked with sweat, wine, and things better not named. You chewed bread that could break a jaw and drank wine so sour it felt like vinegar poured straight down your throat. You smeared your face with poison and called it makeup, scratched fleas off your skin until you bled, then spread your legs for anyone with a coin. Soldiers still stinking of campfires, philosophers who wanted you to moan in rhythm with their speeches, senators who pissed on your head and called it justice, drunks who couldn't finish, sadists who wouldn't stop. You bled from diseases no one could cure, carried pregnancies no one wanted, survived abortions done with sticks and knives, and aged 3 decades in less than 10 years. Finally, when your body broke and your clients vanished, you were tossed out like rotting meat, starved, coughed blood, collapsed in the gutter, and disappeared without a name. That's the entire arc. No redemption, no miracle, no prince, no romance. Just use, decay, and oblivion. And here's the twist of the knife. It was all considered normal. Religion wrapped it in silk and incense, called it holy service, blessed the men who paid, and condemned the women who suffered. Politicians taxed it, wrote it into law, made money off it, then pretended they were disgusted by you. Philosophers turned your body into metaphors for corruption, then came back the next night to fuck you again. Respectable wives sneered at you in the market while wearing jewelry bought with coins their husbands threw at your feet. Guards demanded you for free, priests condemned you for existing. And yet, the brothel was always full, the streets were always lined, and the machine never stopped. You were indispensable and disposable at the same time, the backbone of pleasure, the symbol of disgrace, needed but hated, touched by everyone, held by no one. Now snap back. You are not there. You are not lying on rags older than you. You are not smearing lead on sores that will never heal. You are not coughing blood at 25, praying to gods who never answer. You are not starving in an alley while men laugh and toss scraps to dogs. You are here, in the modern world, with a bed that doesn't crawl with lice, water that doesn't rot your intestines, antibiotics that don't involve leeches, lights that don't flicker with rancid oil, rights that, however imperfect, still exist. If someone strangles you, the law might actually call it murder, not discipline. If someone rapes you, at least in theory, you can seek justice. If your tooth aches, you go to a dentist instead of a barber with pliers. If you give birth, you have hospitals instead of screams on a dirty floor. That alone makes you luckier than almost every woman who lived in antiquity. So the next time you groan about modern life, the traffic jam, the late train, the Wi-Fi dropping during your favorite show, remember in Rome, Athens, Babylon, Alexandria, a bad day meant being kicked awake by a drunk soldier who paid you with coins sticky from his sweat, meant being used by 5 men in a row, while rats chewed through the bread you couldn't eat, meant dying of a tooth infection before you turned 30. Your Tinder date may be a creep, but at least you don't have to register with the state as a meretrix and wear a scarlet toga so everyone knows you're for sale. The women who lived this didn't leave memoirs. They weren't honored in statues, remembered in poetry, or buried with dignity. Their names dissolved the moment their bodies did. They survive only in sneers in old plays, in scraps of law, in the margins of history. But they were there, thousands of them, holding up cities on their backs and between their thighs. Invisible, indispensable, erased. And maybe the only justice left is to say it out loud. They existed, not as myths, not as holy vessels, not as warnings, but as human beings devoured by the world. So tonight, when you pull a blanket over yourself, when you sip clean water, when you fall asleep without lice crawling in your hair, and without a stranger's hands forcing you awake, thank the accident of history. You could have been her. You could have woken up in a Roman brothel with a soldier's stink in your face and a madam screaming for more coins. Instead, you get to wake up tomorrow, clean, safe, free. That's not just comfort. That's a miracle. If you think the brothel was hell, try the street. At least in the lupanar you have 4 walls, straw, and a madam who pretends to protect you while counting her coins. On the street, you belong to no one, which sounds like freedom until you realize it really means you belong to everyone. You stand in the alley by the tavern door, or sit on the steps of a temple, waiting for men to notice. They always notice. Some drop a coin, some don't, but all of them feel entitled to your body. You're cheaper than bread, easier than beer, and more disposable than the sandals on their feet. The street is chaos. Men piss in the same gutters you lean against. Drunks stagger by, grabbing at you, pawing, sometimes forcing themselves without even pretending to pay. You can scream if you want, but it's pointless. A whore can't be raped, not in their eyes. You chose this, they say, though choice never entered the equation. Guards walk past, sometimes taking you for free, sometimes demanding bribes, sometimes laughing while men drag you into shadows. You learn quickly not to fight too hard. Bruises mean less work the next day, and less work means less bread. Nights are the worst. Torches smoke, shadows stretch long, and the city vomits out its ugliest creatures. The drunks, the gamblers, the ones who lost everything at dice and want to take out their rage on something softer than a wall. You. They shove you down, teeth tearing at your neck, coins clattering in the dirt, and by morning you crawl out of the alley bleeding, pretending it never happened because the alternative is starving. And you still have to work the next night because hunger doesn't wait for wounds to heal. The customers are a gallery of madness. One man insists you bark like a dog while he fucks you against a wall. Another wants you to bite him until he bleeds, then cries when you do it. A soldier returns from campaign with half his face missing, reeking of rot, and demands you act like his wife while he grinds his stump of a hand against your body. A drunk noble forces you to sing while he uses you. And when you forget the words, he slaps you so hard you can't hear for days. Some of them don't even want sex. They want humiliation. They spit on you, make you kneel in piss, laugh as you choke on their filth. And you endure, because 1 coin means you live another day. And it's not just men you fear. Other women hate you too. Respectable wives cross the street to avoid your shadow, muttering curses under their breath. Market sellers shove you away, refuse to sell you bread, say your touch contaminates their goods. Even beggars sometimes spit at you. You are bottom of the bottom, the last rung on a ladder that was never meant for you to climb. You exist, but only as a reminder of disgrace. Your body breaks faster on the street. Cold nights stiffen your bones, summer heat cooks your skin. Rain soaks your clothes until you reek like a dead goat. There is no roof, no privacy, no mercy. You sleep curled in corners, head on your knees, hoping no one notices. You eat scraps, rotten fruit, crumbs left behind by rats. When sickness comes, no one helps. You cough blood into the gutter, and men still take you if the price is low enough. And yet, the street never empties. There are always more women, more girls, dumped there by fate, by slavery, by hunger. You see them arrive, fresh faces, bright eyes, still hoping. Within weeks, They look like you, hollow-eyed, limping, chewing on bread crusts and waiting for men they hate. Some vanish overnight dead, sold, taken. Others stay and rot beside you. It's not freedom, it's just a slower death sentence, carried out in alleys under torchlight, one coin at a time. That is the street. No roof, no safety, no end. Just bodies in the shadows, waiting, breaking, disappearing. People like to imagine the madam as some kind of protective mother hen, a rough woman with a soft heart who watches over her girls. Forget that fantasy. A madam is not your mother. She's your owner, your accountant, your jailer. She's the one who buys you, sells you, and bleeds every coin out of your body until there's nothing left. You are an asset on her balance sheet, nothing more. She doesn't ask if you're sick. She asks if you can still work. She doesn't ask if you're hungry. She asks if you've earned enough to cover the bread she gave you yesterday. The madam knows how to break a girl fast. The first night, the new ones cry, clutch their rags, beg for mercy. The madam laughs. She's seen it 1,000 times. She slaps, she threatens, she withholds food until you crawl to the clients yourself. If you resist, she sells you to the streets, where you'll be chewed up in a week. If you obey, she takes your coins and reminds you it could be worse. She has a dozen tricks. Cutting your hair to mark you, smearing you with cheap perfume so strong you choke, forcing you to drink until you can't say no anymore. After that, you don't need to be forced. You just do it, because she's taught you the truth. There is no escape. Madams understand men better than anyone. They know what each type wants and how much he'll pay. The soldier with scars. He likes girls who act afraid, so she pushes the youngest into his arms. The fat merchant with soft hands. He wants to be worshipped, so she tells you to call him Lord while he grunts like a pig. The senator with a cruel streak. He wants to hurt someone, so she sends him the girl already half broken because she won't fight back anymore. Every woman is inventory. Every body a product. And if the product gets damaged, the madam doesn't mourn. She replaces it. Some madams started out like you. They survived long enough, saved a few coins, and clawed their way up by being crueler than the ones who came before. They know exactly what this life feels like, and that's why they show no mercy. Mercy is weakness, and weakness loses money. Better to beat a girl, starve her, threaten her with the streets, than risk her refusing a client. They say, I suffered, now you suffer too. It's a chain of misery stretching back generations, each woman crushing the next to avoid being crushed herself. But don't mistake the madam for free. She answers to someone, always. Maybe a landlord, maybe a politician, maybe a priest who pretends to hate sin while pocketing a share of the earnings. She bribes guards, pays taxes, feeds officials. Her protection is bought with coins ripped from your body. And when she doesn't pay, the brothel burns, the women scatter, and she disappears with whatever money she stashed, leaving you behind to starve. She controls everything. The food, the clothes, the makeup, the straw you sleep on. She loans you dresses and then charges you rent for wearing them. She gives you wine to dull your pain, then doubles the price in your ledger. By the end of the week, you owe her more than you earned. You work to pay debts that never shrink, chained by numbers you can't read. Some women die believing they were always 1 week away from freedom, when in truth, the madam made sure freedom was impossible. And still, in the eyes of the world, the madam is respectable. She runs an establishment, pays her taxes, knows the names of senators. She wears jewelry you will never touch, eats meat while you chew crusts, sleeps in a bed while you rot on straw. She calls herself practical, even generous. Better here than on the street, she says. And maybe she's right, but her kindness is the same as a butcher sharpening his knives. She needs you alive, but never too alive. She needs you broken, but not broken enough to stop working. You are not her family. You are her business. That is the madam's world. She doesn't save you. She doesn't love you. She doesn't even see you. She counts you, uses you, replaces you. And when your body collapses, she steps over you to greet the next girl, smiling as she pockets another coin. Not every prostitute in the ancient world was shivering in an alley or coughing blood on straw. Some wore silk instead of rags, gold instead of glass, and were invited into the halls of power. These were the hetairai of Athens, the elite courtesans of Rome, the companions of kings, poets, and generals. To the outside world, they seemed untouchable, glowing with perfume and wit, laughing at banquets, sipping fine wine. Men called them muses, compared them to goddesses, wrote poems in their honor. But peel away the glitter, and you find the same old truth. They were still bought, they were still owned, they were still trapped in cages, the only difference being that the bars were gilded. The hetaira in Greece could move more freely than the wives of citizens. Respectable wives were locked away, hidden inside houses, barely allowed to step outside without a slave escort. The hetaira, by contrast, walked in the marketplace, hosted saloons, conversed with philosophers. Men praised her as cultured, refined, educated. She could play the lyre, recite Homer, debate politics over cups of wine. To some this looked like power, but that power was rented, not owned. The moment her beauty faded, the moment a younger rival appeared, her so-called freedom vanished. She was praised while she was useful, and cast aside the second she wasn't. Aspasia of Athens is remembered because she charmed Pericles and hosted gatherings of the brightest minds. But for every Aspasia, there were countless others whose names never made it to the page. They entertained, they dazzled, they played their roles, and then they disappeared into hunger or disease. The spotlight was narrow and fleeting. Men adored them in youth, then whispered that they were parasites when the years caught up. The applause always ended with silence. Rome had its own high-class courtesans, women who entertained senators, generals, even emperors. Some were showered with gifts, villas in the countryside, pearls, silks, slaves to serve them. Poets praised them, artists painted them, gossip circled around their beds like bees around honey. At feasts they were displayed like treasures, made to sparkle while men stuffed themselves with food. But every gift was a leash. Every necklace was a reminder of ownership. One slip of the tongue, one rumor of betrayal, one rival with sharper teeth, and the same men who gave them riches could strip them of everything in a day. People liked to pretend these women had influence. They whispered in ears of generals, coaxed secrets from senators, shifted the weight of political decisions. And sometimes they did. But influence is not safety. They had no legal protection, no right to marry respectable men, no place in the social order beyond their usefulness. The law still marked them meretresses, the same word spat at the lowest girls in the streets. A woman could be drenched in perfume and jewels, and still her name carried the same brand as the ragged whore coughing in an alley. Their lives demanded endless performance. It was not enough to spread legs. You had to smile, to charm, to laugh at every crude joke. You had to pour wine gracefully, sing on demand. Debate politics convincingly, pretend interest in the dullest speeches. Your wit had to shine as much as your skin, and your survival depended on never slipping. A single bored yawn, a single wrong glance, and the patron moved on, leaving you to watch your rivals devour the scraps of favor you once held. And then came the fall. It always came. Age crept in faster than anyone admitted. One day your laughter is called captivating. The next it's called shrill. One day your wrinkles are charming. The next, they're proof you've overstayed. Men who once fought over your company now laugh behind your back, calling you a relic. The gifts dry up. The invitations vanish. You sell your jewelry to buy bread. The same doors that opened for you at 20 slam in your face at 30. The cruelest part is the contrast. While respectable wives lived behind walls, invisible but at least secure, the courtesan lived in light, adored, envied, desired. But that light burned fast, and when it went out, there was nothing to fall back on. No legal marriage, no heirs with legitimacy, no protection. Just silence, debts, and the sneers of the same society that once begged for your smile. So the elite side was not salvation. It was a prettier cage, a stage with brighter torches, a feast with better wine. But behind the silks and jewels, the truth was identical. Men paid, men owned, men decided. And when they were done, the courtesan discovered that silk burns just as quickly as rags, and gold chains cut just as deep as iron. Before you ever spread your legs in a brothel, before the senators dripping with wine, or the gamblers howling in taverns, there was the marketplace of flesh. The slave market was the entry gate, the place where human lives were displayed like livestock and sold off for coins. Picture it, a crowded square under the sun, the air thick with the stink of sweat, piss, grilled meat, and desperation. Wooden platforms rise in the center, and on them stand rows of women and girls, stripped naked, chained by the neck, their eyes hollow. Some cry, some stare with blank terror, some try to cover themselves, but the auctioneer smacks their hands away. Buyers need to inspect the merchandise. They prod breasts, squeeze thighs, check teeth, force mouths open, sometimes even shove fingers inside to prove health. The crowd laughs, whistles, claps. To them, this is entertainment. To you, it's the moment your life ends. The auctioneer shouts descriptions like he's advertising wine or olives. Strong hips for bearing children. Virgin, unspoiled. Perfect for the temple or for a noble's bed. Cheap, older, good only for hard work. The buyers haggle loudly, arguing over your body like they're trading cattle. Children dart between legs, pointing and giggling at naked women paraded before them, learning early that flesh has price tags. If you're too thin, you go cheap. If you're too old, you're worthless. Too scarred, too diseased, too rebellious. You might not sell at all, and that means being dragged away to die in some workhouse or dumped in a ditch when no one wants you. The only thing worse than being sold is not being sold. When the hammer falls and your buyer is chosen, you are dragged down. Maybe you go to a wealthy man's villa, where you'll be used privately, paraded in silk until he tires of you. Maybe you're bought in bulk by a brothel keeper, along with half a dozen others, destined for straw floors and endless nights. Either way, the chain stays on. Your name is stripped, replaced with whatever suits the new owner. Some girls are branded with hot irons on thighs, shoulders, even faces. Flesh marked forever with the sign of ownership. The screams echo in the market, but no one flinches. It's just business. The first days in the brothel are the breaking. You arrive still raw from the market, still clutching scraps of dignity. The madam makes sure to rip it out of you fast. Sour wine is poured down your throat until you can barely stand. Your body is painted with cheap perfumes to mask the stink of fear. Then comes the first client, or two, or five. It doesn't matter if you're shaking, if you cry, if you beg. No one listens. The other women avoid your eyes because they know what's coming and can't help. By the end of the week, you've learned the rules. Silence, obedience, numbness. That's the training. The market never stops. Every season brings fresh bodies. Ships unload prisoners from conquered lands: Gauls, Syrians, Egyptians, Jews, Thracians. Soldiers rape them first, then sell them cheap in bulk. Politicians skim their cut, priests look away, and the city hums along, powered by misery. A steady supply of flesh ensures brothels never run empty. Wars are business opportunities, famine is profit, conquest is inventory. Behind every moan in a brothel is the sound of coins exchanged in that square. And the bitter truth is that sometimes the brothel is considered the better outcome. Other slaves are sent to mines, to farms, to grueling work that kills within months. Compared to swinging a pickaxe in a hole until your lungs fill with dust, being fucked to death might sound merciful. That's the logic of the marketplace: better used than wasted, better chained in a bed than starving by the roadside. But the logic is a lie. A cage is a cage, whether it's gilded or smeared with filth. That is the marketplace of flesh. The auction block, the jeering crowd, the hammer of the seller, the brand of the buyer. A theater of humiliation where your life shrinks to a coin purse and your future collapses into straw, sweat, and silence. For the city, it was business as usual. For you, it was the moment you stopped being human and became merchandise. When life is nothing but sweat, blood, and coins you never get to keep, you start reaching for anything that dulls the edges. The cheapest drug in the ancient world is wine, and it is handed out like a leash. Not the good wine the senators drink, spiced with honey and poured into silver cups, but the sour dregs that taste like vinegar left in a piss bucket. The madam gives it to you not as kindness, but as management. A drunk whore moans louder, complains less, and forgets it faster. Too many women start drinking before sunrise and never stop. By midday, their eyes are glassy. By night, they are stumbling through clients with vomit in their hair. And in the morning, they wake up sore, empty, and already begging for more. Some never wake up at all. They choke on their own puke in the corner, and the other girls step around the body because the clients are waiting. Wine is the base, but there are stronger poisons. Opium drifts in from the east, packed in resin, or smoked in clay pipes. At first it is a miracle. The burning sores between your thighs quiet, the bruises fade, the voices of the men blur into distant echoes. You float for a while, watching yourself from somewhere far above, a puppet dancing on strings. But the body notices. Soon you can't get through a night without the smoke. You sweat, you shake, you vomit bile until someone stuffs a pipe between your lips again. The madam encourages it, because an addict doesn't run, doesn't argue, doesn't fight. She sells you cheap to the ugliest clients, knowing you'll crawl back anyway, trading flesh for fumes. Herbs circle through the trade too, whispered about like secret weapons. Mandrake to dull the cramps, henbane to numb the head, pennyroyal to end a pregnancy. Women chew them, swallow them, boil them in bitter teas. Sometimes they work. More often, they kill. Girls scream with convulsions, claw at their bellies, spit foam, then go still while others keep working in the next room. No one has time to mourn. The madam shrugs, drags the body out, brings in a new girl. Survival is math here. One body out, another body in. But the biggest drug isn't swallowed. It's hope. The whispered lies that keep you breathing when your body doesn't want to. Stories about the girl who ran away with a kind client. The girl who stole enough coins to buy her freedom. The girl who disguised herself as a boy and slipped onto a ship, never seen again. These stories swirl through the rooms, like smoke, passed from lips cracked with thirst, believed because without them you'd go mad. Yet you know the truth. The girl who ran off was abandoned by the same man who swore to save her. The thief was beaten until she couldn't walk. The sailor girl was thrown overboard as bad luck. Every escape ends in blood, but you keep telling the stories anyway because lies taste sweeter than the sour wine. Every brothel has its tragedies that look like escapes. A girl slips out into the night barefoot, heart pounding, lungs burning, whispering to herself that she is free. By morning, the guards have dragged her back, her face swollen, teeth missing, ribs cracked. The madam chains her in a dark room for days, feeding her only enough to keep her alive, until she stops screaming and starts nodding when told to work again. Another tries to run to the temple, begging sanctuary from priests. They laugh, throw her back, and spit about sin while still visiting the brothel that night. Another climbs a ship, hiding in the cargo. She is found, raped by the sailors, and sold at the next port to another brothel. The circle never breaks. And yet, even knowing all of this, women still dream of escape in the haze of drugs. They drink until their minds convince them tomorrow might be different. They smoke until their bodies believe they can fly. They chew herbs hoping the poison will free them one way or another. Some succeed in the darkest sense. They never wake again. The others stagger on, caught between addiction and survival, chained by fumes and fantasies. The city calls them sinners. The madam calls them workers. The men call them entertainment. But what they really are is drowning creatures grabbing at anything that floats, even if it is nothing but smoke. When the lamps burn low and the brothel sinks into darkness, when the last drunk client finally collapses in his own piss and the madam locks the door, the only thing left is the whispering. Women curled on filthy mats, backs aching, thighs raw, skin crawling with lice. They lean close and trade stories, not because they believe them, but because silence is worse. Silence lets the mind wander, and the mind is not a safe place here. So they whisper myths dressed up as memories, lies spoken like lullabies, tales of girls who beat the game. Someone says she heard of a courtesan in Corinth who rose so high she dined with kings and rode in carriages of ivory. Someone else swears there was a girl in Rome who was bought by a senator, bore him sons, and was buried in his family tomb with honors. Another tells of a slave in Athens who escaped the brothel, disguised herself as a boy, joined a ship, and became a warrior feared across the seas. The girls listen wide-eyed, imagining themselves in silk instead of rags, in villas instead of hovels, in legend instead of filth. For a few moments, they let themselves taste the sweetness of fantasy. But underneath the whispers lies bitterness. They all know the real stories. The Corinthian courtesan died of fever in her 20s, dumped in a pit. The Roman girl might have been a mistress, but no tomb ever carried her name. The Athenian escapee probably ended up in another brothel at another port. Her disguise ripped away the first night. Reality kills the myth every time, but the myth keeps coming back. It has to. Without it, there's nothing but the straw, the sores, the endless grind of bodies. The whispered stories are more than fairy tales. They are survival tactics. A girl shaking after her first night is told that one day she might be bought by a kind man who will free her. A woman coughing blood is told of someone who prayed at the temple and was miraculously healed. A teenager sold in chains is told that her beauty will make her powerful, feared, worshipped. These lies are medicine, bitter medicine, but medicine all the same. Hope here is a narcotic, stronger than wine, and just as addictive. Sometimes the whispers turn darker, warnings disguised as tales. A girl who tried to poison her client and ended up whipped to death in the street. A thief who hid coins under her tongue and choked on them. A runaway who made it as far as the gates before the guards slit her throat. These stories spread too, serving as reminders of the cost of defiance. They scare the young into obedience, but they also spark a twisted pride. Better to die trying than to rot slowly. Some women whisper those stories with a hint of admiration, like war songs sung in secret. The myths mutate with every telling. A nameless girl becomes a queen. A brutal death becomes a glorious martyrdom. Each retelling sands off the misery and adds sparkle until the story is bearable. The truth doesn't matter. What matters is getting through the night, distracting yourself from the crawling in your scalp and the burning between your legs. What matters is keeping the girl next to you from breaking completely before morning. In the end, the whispered stories are not history. They are lullabies made of lies, stitched together from scraps of longing. They don't free anyone. They don't save anyone. But they give you one thing the brothel never does. The feeling, however brief, that maybe you are more than meat. That maybe, in some version of the world, you could be something else. And for a few minutes, lying in the dark with your sisters in misery, that lie is enough to keep you alive until the next bell rings. It always comes back to the same cycle. The names change, the cities change, the gods change, but the system stays the same. Babylon had its temple girls, Greece had its heterae, Rome had its meretresses, the Middle Ages had their tavern wenches, and every empire, every kingdom, every era invents a new word to cover the same thing. Women reduced to bodies, men paying for access, society pretending it is both necessary and shameful at the same time. The wheel spins, grinding down lives, and no one ever admits who is turning it. Every generation claims it is different. The priests of Ishtar called it holy. The Greeks dressed it in philosophy. The Romans taxed it like cattle. The medieval lords condemned it from pulpits while sneaking into the beds themselves. Always the same hypocrisy, painted in new colors. The rich and powerful need release, the poor need coins, and so flesh becomes currency again. Nothing sacred, nothing new, just the endless recycling of misery under different flags. And the cycle doesn't just devour the women, it devours the truth. The stories vanish, the names rot away. Historians write about generals, kings, philosophers, but the women who filled the beds are left in shadows. A brothel might house dozens for decades, but not one of their names survives. They become faceless figures, footnotes in law codes, the punchline of jokes carved on tavern walls. Their pain is erased, their work ignored, their humanity denied. Yet without them, the city collapses. Without their bodies for coin, without their labor in silence, half the men who wrote history would have been too distracted, too frustrated, too broken to do any of the things they are praised for. The invisible scaffolding of history was made of women's bones. You look at it now, and you see echoes. The same dynamics dressed differently. Streets lit with neon instead of torches, clubs instead of taverns, the internet instead of marketplaces. But the trade is there, pulsing, hidden in plain sight. Men still sneer while reaching into their pockets. Politicians still condemn with one hand and purchase with the other. Priests still thunder about morality while crawling into beds they pay for in secret. The cycle hasn't ended, it has just updated its wardrobe. And the cruelest part is that the suffering never needed to be inevitable. It was chosen, enforced, normalized. Cities decided that this was easier than justice. Men decided that their urges mattered more than women's lives. Whole cultures decided that the hypocrisy was tolerable as long as the system kept running. And so it did, grinding down generation after generation until even the women themselves believed escape was a fantasy, whispered only at night between coughs and sobs. That is the end cycle. Not the death of one woman, but the repetition of thousands, millions, across centuries. Different names, same pain. different languages, same screams. And when you realize that, the past stops feeling like history and starts feeling like a mirror. The brothel isn't just in Rome or Athens, it's a reflection of every age that values power over people, desire over dignity. So when you finally pull the blanket over yourself tonight, in your clean bed, in your safe room, with medicine in your cabinet and locks on your doors, remember this. The cycle is older than empires and stronger than gods, but it only keeps turning if no one calls it what it is. You are not chained on a platform. You are not being sold under the sun. You are not lying on straw waiting for the next hand to pull you apart. And that is fortune, an accident of birth, a miracle of time. History shows you what it could have been. The choice now is whether you just whisper about it, or whether you finally break the wheel. The brothel is bad, the street is worse, but nothing compares to the festivals. The days when the city decides it's time to drink until collapse, fight until blood soaks the sand, and fuck until the air reeks of sweat and incense. For prostitutes, festivals are not celebration. They are slaughterhouses with music. The demand multiplies, the madness thickens, and bodies are consumed like bread at a feast. Take the gladiator games. The arena fills with thousands screaming for blood, and once the throats are raw from shouting and the sand is wet with guts, the crowd pours out looking for another kind of release. Brothels overflow. The madam lines girls up like merchandise at a fair, soldiers and citizens barging in, waving coins, demanding service fast, hard, brutal. Some want to reenact what they just saw. Biting, striking, choking, blood mixing with sweat. They cheer when you cry out as if you're part of the show. For them, you are not a woman. You are the after-party of death. Religious festivals are worse because men pretend it's holy. Dionysian orgies, Saturnalia feasts, nights dedicated to wine and chaos. Respectable wives stay home, but the streets flood with masks, torches, chants, and the endless hunt for flesh. Prostitutes are pulled into alleys, thrown across temple steps, pressed against tavern walls while men shout hymns or laugh like demons. During Saturnalia, slaves are allowed to mock their masters, citizens pretend equality, and everyone drinks until they vomit. But you, the whore, are never equal. You are just busier, taken by 5, 10, 20 men in a row, until your body is more bruised than skin. When the festival ends, citizens go home to wash, and you curl on straw, bleeding, too tired even to curse the gods. Banquets have their own cruelty. Rich men invite courtesans and low girls alike to lie naked beside trays of food, grapes dripping down chins, wine poured over breasts as a game. You are entertainment, like the music, like the dancers, like the pet monkeys dressed in gold collars. They feed you until you choke, then slap you for ruining the mood. They make wagers on you, how many men can use you before you faint, how long you can keep singing while being taken. Your humiliation is their laughter, and their laughter is endless. Some festivals drag you into parades. Naked women painted with oil, chained together, forced to march through the streets while men throw flowers and insults, coins and stones. To the crowd, you are part of the spectacle, a reminder of abundance, a living symbol of lust and sin. Children see you, wives sneer at you, priests wave incense at you. By the time you are dragged back to the brothel, your feet are cut, your body is covered in bruises, and you stink of every hand that touched you. And the worst is the private parties of the elite. Senators and generals invite friends into villas, lock the doors, and turn the night into theater. Prostitutes are dressed as goddesses, chained to couches, ordered to act out myths. You are Leda with her swan, Europa with her bull, Persephone dragged to hell. Except the roles are not acted, they are inflicted. Men cheer, toast, laugh at your tears. They call it culture, art, religion. You call it another night you might not survive. Festivals end, but for you they never do. The scars stay, the infections spread, the memories rot inside your head. Tomorrow the city will clean its streets, sweep away the vomit and ashes, and boast about its great traditions. But you will still be bleeding, coughing, limping. For the men, it was joy. For you, it was just another cycle of consumption. Proof that in this world, even holidays taste like suffering.